Bhakti-marga Swami is coming to Vrindavan.
Bhakti-marga Swami?
Bhakti-marga Swami.
Wow.
First.
There's a mantra retreat. And at the mantra retreat we're going to do.
And Aburia Danko is also going to be there. No, so he's in Gita-marga.
The Russian?
Yeah, Russian.
Hmm.
But no, he's going to be in Gita-marga. So, but Bhakti-marga Swami for sure. His health is waning. So, maybe.
So what's the topic, or is we can do whatever we want? Or
Yeah.
what do you want to talk about? You know what I was thinking?
Question answer.
But I was thinking it'd be interesting, just to let you know what I do, just because you probably don't know that well, and then we can talk. So I first came to Krishna consciousness when I was 19 in 1969. And then moved into the temple, and in those days, all day was Harinam. From like 10 o'clock till 6 o'clock, and then with a break for lunch. That was basic program, and then we'd have morning and evening program, and then 3 nights a week, we would go to Harinam again in the evening. 3 nights, Bhagavad Gita, 3 nights. We would go out. And that was just what everybody did. And then around 1970, late 71, 72, book distribution started really taking off. So for about 10 years from that time, I was either temple president or on Sankirtan or Sankirtan leader. And I always like to talk to people. Like, when you want to distribute a lot of books, the less you say, the more books you distribute. The more you say, the more you can listen. So I like to talk to people. So I go to colleges more. I would do that. But I'd always think about teaching and cultivating people. So in the late 70s, I was doing that, like congregational programs. So you want to talk into that?
No, you don't have to. It should pick it up.
You want to bring in a table and put it in on the table? I have a little table. Is that better? It's okay. We'll just see you guys. You're more beautiful than I am.
Maybe here.
Yeah, that's better. So in 1979, I was in Los Angeles, and I was a Sankirtan leader, and we had like 25 men that I was in charge of. And yeah, it was exciting, but I would always think about teaching. That was just like, but there was a need to do other things, so I did for maybe 30 years. I've been temple president 4 times, Sankirtan leader, congregational leader. And then about 20 years ago or so, I just wanted to develop workshops where you could go into one topic, like maybe Japa, spend 2 days or 5 days. And so that's what I started doing. And I developed maybe officially like 6 or 7 workshops, and a lot unofficially. It was just classes I gave on the same topic. So it's kind of the same. And then I never had written books. I'd always talk, but I just started writing. So basically what I'm doing now is I'm teaching courses, developing courses, and in every course I teach, I have a book, or I'm working on a book, and I have an affirmation. You can see some of the affirmation books, self-care affirmations, japa. We teach a course on marriage, so we have marriage affirmations. Teach a course on humility. I'm writing the book on humility affirmations. So I started writing. So basically, writing, counseling, developing courses both online, live, and retreats, and organizing all that, and I have a few other things I do, but that's the main thing that I do. And so, before I got sick, I was gone. Maybe it was funny. I was gone like 6 months a year. And the funny thing is, it's like I would get invited to temples and they say, can you teach this and that? So, like you're never famous in your own village. And I don't do it here because it's like it takes organization to organize the program. So when I get invited, they all organize. If I want to do it here, I have to organize.
Yeah.
It's too much trouble. Anyway, we've done things here occasionally, and we can do it. Anyway, so that's what I do. So you want to ask questions, or you want to topic, or? Yes,
So at what point in your devotional life you entered Grihastha?
I was married 1976, but my wife left me, and then I was thinking I would take sannyas, but I wasn't ready. Still a bit young. So then I married again. But I stayed single for a while. I really have this split personality where I have like this side of renunciation, but it's not 100%. So I thought probably safer not to do it. When I wanted to do it, I was 42. Well, actually, the first time I was going to take sannyas when I was 29, but Krishna saved me. It didn't happen. Like they didn't give sannyas that year. And then I was supposed to take sannyas in 42, and the person who was recommending me forgot to recommend me. So then I was thinking, I guess Krishna is saving me this month. So I think I combined renunciation and grihastha life fairly well. Maybe a little more than my wife likes, but that's my nature. So you can do both. It's a balancing act. But many of our sannyasis didn't make it. So you have to have that nature. And I have that nature, but not 100%. I could say. So, but I kept it pretty renounced and grihastha life.
Any Srila Prabhupada memories you would like to share?
Yeah, I asked him if I could take sannyas, and he said, first become an ideal grihastha, because I was married. He said, become an ideal grihastha, and be responsible. Because if I was irresponsible, that's why a lot of grihasthas wanted to take sannyas. They didn't want the responsibility of grihastha life, but then they didn't realize they'd have the responsibility of sannyas life, which may be more difficult. I was just listening to one of our sannyasis. He's very renounced, very, very renounced. And he said, for me, sannyas was a problem because I want to be renounced, and people are like honoring me. They're cooking for me, and they're giving me all these facilities, and I just want to sleep on the floor. And they're like, no, Maharaj, you have to sleep on the bed. So, it's got its own weird problems if you want to be renounced. So Prabhupada said, you're married, so I won't give you sannyas until you prove yourself as responsible. So there's a lack of responsibility for sure. And to his secretary, who told me when Prabhupada got my letter, can I take sannyas? His answer to the secretary who writes the letter is, tell him he's a nonsense. It didn't come out that way in the letter, but that was the instruction. That was the instruction. But one thing we can learn from Prabhupada, well, there are many things we can learn, but one thing we can learn from his association is
recite this verse. Just recite.
Is the power of Sangha. Because when you hear about the early development of ISKCON and the sacrifices devotees made, sometimes you think, wow, can we do that today? Or why don't we do that today? Or, like, we can go in Harinam for 2 hours. We were going, some days we were like 10 hours. It was 12 to 6. And then, yeah, on the weekends, I was in San Francisco. It was a brahmachari. The weekends, Friday and Saturday were 10 hours. 10 or 11. As we go back out at night till midnight. Until 1 o'clock. And then book distribution took off, and just you read about it, you hear about all these things we do. Why you guys are so fired up? We're not like that. But when you get the association of a pure devotee, that's what happens. So if you ever wonder how is it that you were all so fired up, my answer to that is, if you were there, it would have been the same for you. It's not special. People say, you Prabhupada disciples are special. Well, you'd be special if you were with Prabhupada. If you have the association of pure devotee, that's what you do. It's not even like you have to try. It's just, you're inspired. I think that's, they say, Shastra says, Bhavamatra Sadhusanga, Sarva Siddhi Voy. All perfection comes from a moment association. So for some devotees, it's just no Prabhupada. It was like 180 degrees change in their life. And one of the things that I found, and I'm sure all devotees, all his disciples found, that we were not feeling and thinking the way we normally would feel. Even we could see that after Prabhupada left, it changed. But in his presence, it was like we were feeling what he was feeling. It was like he was blessing us. I need you to spread Krishna consciousness and empower you with compassion and energy and so forth. So we made a lot of sacrifices, but I felt like Prabhupada was just like dousing us. Of course, his personal presence, he doesn't even have to do that. It's just his heart is emanating prema, so we get it. So I think that's one of the most significant things, and it underscores the value of sadhusanga, because Shastra says sadhusanga can change you, and it changed so many people. And the interesting thing was, now we have a very divided movement in the sense that there are 100 gurus, but you can imagine one guru. Everyone in the movement is your god brother or god sister. So there's a kind of unity of that. That we're never going to have. We can try to get unity, but that kind of unity is unique. And so wherever you would go, meeting Prabhupada's disciples was very close to meeting Prabhupada, because they were so energized by Prabhupada that you got his energy. The Los Angeles temple, I lived there 73, when I went back 75, that's 76. There are 350, in 1975, there's 300 devotees living within 2 blocks of the temple. And there was Mangal Artik and Sunda Artik, and almost 3/4 at least of the devotees were there. And I lived in San Diego for a while, and so occasionally we would go up to Los Angeles for a day just to get inspired. And seriously, you just have to go for one day. And one day you get so inspired, because the devotees were so inspired, because there was so much manifesting Prabhupada's heart and moved. So I think that's one of the most significant things about Prabhupada. You just felt like surrender. Now if I say surrender, you're like, how much? For how long? If I surrender too much, then maybe I can't do it, or something's going to be wrong, or whatever. When you're in Prabhupada's presence, the desire to surrender was not in your head, it was totally in your heart. It may be like, full of heart. See what you think. So it was kind of amazing if you think about it. It was like Prabhupada needed an army to spread Krishna consciousness. So sometimes I think it was like, these are the kind of people I need, so I will give the mercy so that they'll be like that. I need people who are surrendered. I need people who are enthusiastic. I need people who, you know, can follow orders, can work together, so I'll endow them. It was a little bit like that. So I felt like for me, I felt like this was almost like cheating. It was like I could do so much. That wasn't me. And Nirvrtti Swami gave a class that I remember in LA. It was probably in the late 90s. And in the class, he said, I don't know how I did what I did when Prabhupada was here because I can't do it now. So, I'm like, I've been a devotee 55 years, you know, or you must be surrendered. Or maybe I was more surrendered then because of that mercy. At least that's how we feel. So I think that's the most significant. And we experience that to one degree or another with advanced devotees today. And if you become advanced, then you can have that same influence on other people.
So you think the dynamic of ISKCON has changed because Srila Prabhupada isn't particularly here?
It has to change, but it's similar, but it's never going to be exactly the same. But you get stories like that, you know, when someone met their spiritual master, they didn't know that was going to be their spiritual master. They said, but something changed when I saw him. When he gave that class or whatever it was, I felt. So that still happens. But the more advanced the devotee, the more powerful it is. And of course, we don't rely on that because we have to, anything is to follow the instruction. Can't just rely. You know, some people, they get very fired up in Prabhupada's presence, but when he was gone,
Drop off.
LA temple, when Prabhupada came in the early 70s, you couldn't fit everyone in the temple. But normally, there were like 100, 150 devotees. When he came, all these devotees that lived in LA came out of the woodwork. And after Prabhupada left, we didn't see him until they came back. So he did have that power, but the ones who were able to make it obviously were attached to his mission and attached to his instruction. So if it's just the physical presence, it works well when you're in his presence.
You're promising your disciples to take back to Godhead. So,
I can only promise that because Prabhupada promised it. So I can only promise if you do what Prabhupada said, he will take you back to God. I mean, Prabhupada asked us to be gurus, either Siksha or Diksha. So we don't feel qualified, but he asked us. We did so many things we didn't feel qualified to do, but he asked us to do it. He said, go do it. This is what I want you to do. So our confidence is, if we represent Prabhupada in his instructions, and Prabhupada said, if you follow my instructions, you chant 16 rounds, I will take you back to God. So we feel like, okay, I, as Prabhupada's representative, can help my disciples turn them over to Prabhupada. Our qualification is that we follow. As the Prabhupada always said, his qualification was he followed his guru, and everything happened because of that. And we just heard that story. Remember the story that Narayani told, that this lady had a dream. She wasn't a disciple of Prabhupada. She had a dream that Prabhupada was taking her back to Godhead. People were saying she shouldn't go, she's not qualified. And, you know, Prabhupada came to start this movement. And if he's not able to take us back to Godhead, why did he start it? Like, what's the point? Like, you'll never go back to Godhead, but you'll get some good prasadam, and you'll take birth on heavenly planets in your next life, and your life will be better. So I personally think that because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta asked him to do this, Prabhupada is guaranteeing that you follow his teachings. He's guaranteeing, besides your disqualification, which we have many, it's called Yuga, then you'll go back to Godhead. And I think for myself, and I think for many others, sometimes I'll look back and I'll think of service I did, and I'll think, well, maybe I'm still a devotee today because I did that. I made some sacrifice.
Maybe it's a question whether we go back to Godhead in one lifetime or 2 lifetimes.
Well, Prabhupada wanted us in one lifetime, so at least he said it's possible.
Because I have different opinions. And for example, I asked somebody next to me asked this question of Bhakti-marga Swami, and he said, most of us are way too contaminated to do it in one lifetime, so it takes 2 lifetimes.
But how do you know, you're
Specifically
not on
too.
your second?
That's what Bhagavad Prabhu said. He said,
But that's not.
I learned from him.
oh.
Many years back, you were telling me that. How do you know this is not your last one?
See,
It's
that's-
a very good logic.
But you know the story, there's a story I was told. In Gaudiya Math, if you go to Gaudiya Math, they will say 3 lifetimes. That's, we've heard that. 3 lifetimes. So Prabhupada said, if you chant 16 rounds, I'll take you back to Godhead. And like you're saying, devotees would say, Prabhupada, what else, and how is it possible? And like so many times, and Prabhupada said, no, it's possible. And then they kept doubting, and Prabhupada said, I promise you, I will personally take you back to Godhead. So they told this to one very prominent Gaudiya Math guru. He's no longer alive, but he was very prominent. And they said, and he didn't believe that. He said, Prabhupada said that, 3 lives. He said, that's not possible. I mean, 1 life, he said, it's not possible. He said, no, Prabhupada said that he would do that. So he was thinking about it. And then he said, Prabhupada could do that. That was his thought. Prabhupada could do that. So my thinking is, we're not qualified. Maybe you're a little more qualified. You're born Gujarati. You didn't grow up with rock and roll and sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Maybe you did, I don't know. But you probably had advantages we don't have. But it's still Kali Yuga, so we're all disadvantaged. So if Prabhupada's coming to preach, he has to have a method that's going to be able to take the lowest person back to Godhead. And I think he had faith in the holy name that he could do that. And despite our disqualification, he has to, I think, say to Krishna, I want them to go back to Godhead. This is what I'm giving them. And when the pure devotee wants something, Krishna has to fulfill it. That's there everywhere in the Shastra. So if Prabhupada says 16 rounds, 1 lifetime, 4 principles, dedicate, like he said, dedicate your life to book distribution, you go back to Godhead. He said to one Pujari, you've taken care of the deities nicely, you go back to Godhead. Do this, open this temple, invite the Queen of England to the opening of Mayapur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur will take you back to Godhead. So it's not just on our own strength, but the only thing that makes sense based on considering everything is that Prabhupada just made a deal with Krishna. They're going to chant 16 rounds, they're going to help me. They'll follow these 4 principles. You got to let them in. And that Prabhupada said, I've got the key to the back door. So it's like Krishna saying, okay, they're definitely not qualified for the front door. Don't let anybody see them, when they come in the back.
What will be the difference?
So
What will be the difference entering from back door?
the front door you need qualification. Back door you can sneak in.
But inside is the same.
But inside's the same, yeah. And when you go there and they look at you and go, I don't think so, you just say, I'm with Bhaktivedanta Swami. They're like, okay. It's kind of like that. So we are very disqualified. We're very fallen. We make many mistakes. Many devotees broke principles, even offended Prabhupada, so many things. But they've come back, they've apologized, and they're going forward. And it's really up to Prabhupada. And so we, as next generation gurus, we're doing it not because we think we're qualified, but if we can represent Prabhupada and we can be an example, then if our disciples follow, then they can also do that. Maybe even before, maybe they'll follow better than we will. As Prabhupada said, I am praying one of my disciples will become a pure devotee so that they can take me back to God. So that's his humility, but it does show that even a disciple could be more advanced.
Speak something to getting discouraged, seeing shortcomings.
Oh, yeah. In 1972, when Prabhupada gave sannyas to Vrindavan Maharaj and Satsrupa Maharaj, he said, now that you've taken sannyas, it doesn't mean you will not be attracted to women, to money, and these things. So do it now. You can't have anything to do with because you've given it up. So I think it's similar for us. If we become devotees, we give up things. So it's not that when you become a devotee or when you get initiated, automatically those things go away. But we don't engage with them. So Rupa Goswami says, what's that, the verse, what's a understood? So one of the qualities is patience. And he's talking about patience with ourselves, because all that verse is personal qualities. He's not talking about being patient with others, although that's more tolerance. But even tolerance of ourselves, but especially patience. So you're going to become a devotee and you're like, this is it. I want to do this. This is how I want to serve. I have visions of how advanced I would like to be in the future and so on. And then on the way, you find that your conditioning, it doesn't go away very quickly, or it goes away for a while. And then all of a sudden, you have a bad day or a bad week or a bad month and it comes up. Or it goes away, but it didn't actually go away. You just hid it from yourself.
Mm.
You kind of pretended it wasn't there. Or another one is like when you're a younger devotee, I don't know if you've been around long enough to have this experience, but when you're a younger devotee, you're detached from a lot of things because you're coming fresh out in the material world and you're like, I'm frustrated with this. I never want to do this again. But when there's time in between that, then you actually see how renounced you are or you aren't, because sometimes you can't tell how renounced you are because it's frustration. It's not renunciation. It's like, I had a bad relationship with a woman. That's it. Never again. I'm never going to do it. And, it only takes one to, but this one's different. So it's extremely important if you understand that your material conditioning and the desires you have, it's totally normal. Like that's the expected. The problem is we think it's not normal, so we think something's wrong with us. Well, I'm chanting every day. Why am I attached to this, or why am I thinking about that? I know I should do this, but I don't because I'm not that austere or whatever. And it's very discouraging. And then what makes it worse is we think other devotees don't have those problems because nobody's talking about those problems. If we all talked about our problems, we'd all realize we have the same problems, because everyone who has a physical body has the same problems. Like one time a devotee went to Prabhupada and he said, Srila Prabhupada, it's so difficult to control my tongue. And Prabhupada said, I know, I have a tongue also. And if you hear Prabhupada talking about attraction to women, you can see he understands it from his own, because he has a body. He says women in this country are very attractive, or this part of the body is very attractive, or it's an itch, just control it. It's like he's talking not just from Shastra, but I got a body also. I know what it's like. So the real thing is to have patience with ourselves and just understand that when I become a devotee, I'm committing to not doing all these things that I'm still attached to, because I know they lead to nowhere. But it's not like they're not going to be there. It's not like if you're on Sankirtan and you see a pretty woman, yeah, she's pretty. But it's like, yeah, but I'm a brahmachari, or at least for this period of time, I'm a brahmachari, so it's like, whatever. I don't think about it. Disturb me for a second. So it's like that. Or this devotee, I'm so envious of them. Like, I'm so bad, I'm envious. I'm like, yeah, I'm conditioned, so I'm envious. I should probably be nice to him. That will help me, cure me, whatever. So it's like there are actions you can take to neutralize how you feel. Women, mother, serve. No, I have no relationship with a woman other than nothing or service. That's my two relationships. It's like nothing or service. There's no other relationship. So that neutralizes the lust. Because even if I'm lusty, I just think, but my only relation is to serve, not to give. So it's like, okay. So I have strategies to deal with it. And not become discouraged because it's there. and know that as I advance, it will go away. So I see the biggest problem is to think it's abnormal. So when devotees will come to me and say, "Oh, Prabhu, I have this problem, that problem, this problem, that problem," and I'll tell them, "Oh, you are 100% normal. Don't worry about it," because it's thinking I'm not normal. That's the problem. Because then you get discouraged. And I think it's a really subtle form of Maya, because Maya's job is to discourage you. So anything that discourages you, even if it makes sense, even if it's logical, even if you fell on your face, it's, "Oh my God, I got that lost." Obviously, you're going to be discouraged. But I would say, if that ever happens, if that ever happened, like you fell down, that Mangalartik, you should dance the whole time, because you want to fight it. Like your strategy is, don't give into it. It's like, I got to fight this. I lost the boxing match. I want a rematch. I'm coming out stronger. Not like, "Oh, I'm never going to fight again." So if Maya can destroy your enthusiasm, your bhakti is finished. And so we don't want to allow ourselves, by how we respond to our own normal conditioning, to become discouraged. Because once we're discouraged, it's like, imagine you're in a war and you're like, "I don't want to fight this war." You're shot. You have to be on the offense. So you can think like how to deal with those difficulties that you have, the personal ones, in a way that you can accept. Okay, it's me. I wish I were better, but this is who I am. But I'm just going to have to accept that. For me, these are the challenges I have, and I'm going to deal with them. And I'm always going to remain enthusiastic. And I'll remain enthusiastic, especially to overcome those. And it's just like, if you feel some attachment or whatever, it's just, okay, this is the battle I have to deal with today. I didn't have it last week, but here it is. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to beat myself up because it's there. It's just we all have it.
Devotee at Krishna House the other day said, "It's not the fall that kills you, it's the abrupt stop."
Yeah. Yeah. What's the saying? The only person who fails is the one who gives up.
There's a quote of Prabhupada, how one life can go. Read it.
My Guru Maharaj,
Louder.
my Guru Maharaj, Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada used to say that every one of his disciples could attain Vaikuntha Loka in this life without waiting for another life to execute devotional service. One simply has to become as serious and sincere as Dhruva Maharaj, then it is quite possible to attain Vaikuntha Loka and go back home, back to Godhead in one life.
Yeah.
Reference.
Srimad Bhagavatam 4:12-43.
And in so many lectures, Prabhupada said that directly or indirectly. Like Prabhupada just say, you've got a human form of life, so use it. And not only that, you got a human form of life, but you're a devotee, so you're right on the cusp. Or Prabhupada would say, you're on the verge of deathlessness. You're so close. But don't give up. And Maya wants you to give up. So Maya's going to make you feel right. That's the use. And you find your place in Krishna consciousness. You find your happy spot. And, living as a brahmachari, Prabhupada said, it's so interesting because brahmachari it's more renounced than grihastha. Just living. Pretty simple. So many things you shouldn't do. I mean, so many things grihastha shouldn't do, but even more so. And Prabhupada said, the way the mind works is that when you give up something, the mind wants it more. It's the nature of the mind. You ever notice that? Like, you become a devotee and you want something, you didn't even want it before you were a devotee. Or you gave it up when you were 17, you joined when you're 20 or 30, and you're all of a sudden thinking about it.
Craving rice on Ekadashi.
Oh no, another Ekadashi. That's the nature of the mind. Like, probably there's so many days in your life you didn't eat grains just because whatever. They weren't available in the situation, you're traveling, you just don't feel like it because you're a little break. And then Ekadashi comes. That's the nature of the mind. So when you give up something, even you don't want it, sometimes the mind will just, it's just the nature of it. Doesn't even make sense. So if you understand that, it's like, oh, it's just my mind doing it.
Mm.
It's just, and it's just like you have to look at it and go, okay, mind, you can not think about that. It's like, you don't have to think about that. And it's kind of like, yeah, I used to think about that when I was 15, but like I'm 30 now, you don't have to think about that. Or I become a devotee. I've been to Sri Prabhu who said, your body becomes a devotee, but your mind doesn't. So when you join, it's like, okay, we're gonna do it. And the mind's like, no, you're not. And so it take your body comes first, your mind comes later. Even I think Bhurijan Prabhu said, even when you travel, your body comes, your mind's still like where you
Catch nerves.
I'm still in the latch of my mind, but my body's in London. So it's a little bit like that. Your body became a devotee, but your mind's not like it fights. So if you understand that, it's like, okay, this is normal, my mind's fighting. I just have to tolerate, I have to be patient with myself, have not beat myself up, be kind. Just like I'm compassionate with other people, I need to be compassionate with myself. Like, okay, this is all right, It's only like a million lifetimes that you're eating, sleeping, mating, defending like an animal. So it's not like, I'm not becoming devoted after 3 months, it's so difficult. Well, yeah, of course. There's a story, this Buddhist, this Western guy becomes a Buddhist. And when he's given like 6 hours of mantras to chant. He says his guru, so like, why so many? Said, because you chanted so many other mantras for so many lives. We have to make up. Give me more, I'm the best, I'm the greatest. So you got to counteract those mantras. So you don't realize how conditioned you are until you try to give up sense gratification. And it's like a lot of brahmacharis will think, no, I wasn't even that attracted to this and that before I was a devotee, or I had, girlfriends before I was not girlfriends, friends who were girls. It was like, whatever, And now I'm like a devotee. It's like, imagine you. It's because you've given it up. So, and I was like, oh yeah? Oh yeah? Giving that up? Yeah.
We'll see about that.
Exactly. So if you now one thing to understand about Prabhupada's books, one of the ways you can look at his books is like his book is like a book on war, and he's revealing to you the strategy of Maya. This is what Maya is going to do. So you know what the enemy is going to do, so you can prepare for it. This is what the enemy is going to do, and this is how you prepare for it. That's actually what's in Prabhupada's books. So every problem you have, he's already told you you're going to have it, and how it's going to affect you, and why it's going to come, and what you could do, what you could be doing that's causing that problem, what you could be doing that could be solving the problem. So if you study his books, you'll have solutions, and you'll understand why these problems are coming, how they're coming, and you'll be able to deal with it. But I think one of the problems is the lack of self-patience with ourselves. That's when you'll give up. I've tried it, doesn't work. I've been a devotee over 55 years, and one of the things that I tell people is that no matter how difficult it is, you reap certain results that you're not going to get until you're older. You reap results all along, but when you're older, let's say after you've been a devotee for 40 years, it's like you have to. I don't know an example of it, but it's like, let's say if you wanted to get good at something, and everybody says it takes 40 years to master it, something like that. So if you stay in bhakti, even though you're not thinking you're doing well, if you just stay, at a certain point, those problems are going to be minimized, and you're going to start reaping like realizations that you can't get now, you'll get them. Taste for the holy name you can't get now, you'll get them. Just so many real amazing realizations you'll have, and qualities will start developing that take like that long. Like for me, I didn't even understand humility, even like have a glimpse of what it was or is until I've been a devotee almost 30 years. That was just like, oh, because I met somebody who was really humble, like, oh. And I met many humble devotees and I never said, oh, and one day I just evolved more and I saw a humble devotee. Oh, that's what it's all about. Like I was always trying to like be in the center, be number one, let me give class, let me lead kirtan, let me show off, for like 30 years. And then one day I see this really humble devotee. Now I was a little purified, so it affected me. If I saw him 10 years before that, maybe not. So when you stick around, like if you hear classes by advanced devotees, I don't know if you ever thought like this, but they're talking and they're saying things and you're thinking, how do they know that? It's like, I didn't even read that in Prabhupada's books. How do they know that? It's their realization. But it took all those years. They couldn't give that. You could give a very good class on Shastra even after a year or two. You just study everything Prabhupada said and put it together. But the kind of realizations that the advanced devotee gives, unless you hear from that advanced devotee, you wouldn't have them. And even if you did, you wouldn't have them as full realizations like they have. So if you stay in Krishna consciousness long enough, you reap the results. So I'm speaking from experience. Like no matter how difficult it is, and no matter how slow it is, just stay. Because when you're 67 years old, you look back and go, good thing I stayed. Because it's going to be different. And it's not going to be such a struggle. Everyone they look at me like, oh, you look so skinny, you should eat more. I'm like, yeah, I'm not 25. I'm just like, so you're all thinking, I eat so much, this and that. Yeah, just wait. You get old enough, it's like it's not like you can eat that much.
How does one stick around for so long?
Because I can tell you why I do. Because I hate to be defeated, and if I leave, I'll be defeated by Maya. So it's kind of like I program myself that Maya, you're never going to defeat me, and even if you do, I won't leave. So you can bother somebody else. If I'm not worth bothering, go find someone else who wants to live. That was one thing. That's just my nature.
You really talk to Maya like that?
I just feel it. I'm not gonna let you defeat me. I don't talk out loud, but I think like it's like an ego thing or something. It's like you're playing a game, a sport or something. There's some women, like I'm not gonna let the women. They're like better than you. I'm not gonna let them defeat me. So it's something like that, But I think what the foundation of that is. My thinking has always been like, after everything Prabhupada did and after everything he gave, how could I leave that? It's like your father worked on a business since he was 20. It's a multi-million-dollar business, and he gives it to you, and your job is to expand, at least maintain it, not expand it. And so you're thinking, I got to make this work. I can't, this is my father. I can't let him down. He almost died starting this business, and he's laid it out. He's told me exactly what he wants to do. So I feel like if after everything Prabhupada did, I don't take advantage of it, then it's like a slap in the face to him. And it's a slap in the face to me because I don't care enough about myself to take advantage of it. But I feel more like this is what Prabhupada gave. And it's like he gave you such a valuable gift and you just put it on the shelf and you don't use it. If a very advanced devotee has spiritual difficulty and they break one of the principles, I always feel not just sad for that devotee, but I feel sad for Prabhupada. After all you've done, this is what happened with this devotee. It's like a slap in your face. So I feel like, it's my father, ISKCON is his business. He's given all his instructions. He wants me to go back to Godhead. He wants me to follow those instructions. And he wants me to help him as best I can. And what else am I going to do? I'm really fortunate because if I look at what I'm good at and what I'm inclined to do in my life, most of my training was as a devotee. So what can I do? Like they did an interview. I think my wife did a documentary like 20 years ago or 15 years ago. and they interviewed Vishwambar. And she said, why are you doing this? You know, kirtan, and he looked at his wife, he says, I don't know how to do anything else. Born with a Mridanga in his hand. So, if you stay in devotional service long enough, it's like, wow, I have this gift. I'm like, how can I not give it? And even if you get married, you still want to be able to give Prabhupada's gift and figure out how to do that. Maybe you make a living teaching Krishna consciousness. Be smart enough, become some influencer and whatever, however you do it, write books, do workshops, So you think like this is a gift. Prabhupada wants us to share it. And he wants me he wrote those books for me, so he wants me to take advantage of it. And that's the foundation of Maya, and I won't let you defeat me, because if Maya, if you defeat me, then I'd let Prabhupada go. So that's very deep for me. I don't know if I can just teach people how to do that. It might be just who I am, but that is the mentality that we should try to develop if we don't have it.
What do you tell your disciples as tangible practices, daily practices for, this is what I did. This is what helped me develop my faith. This is what gave me this, warrior mentality.
Well, the first thing I try to do is help them with japa, because that's foundational. But even if they have difficulty, I just say, it's okay. I'm not going to beat you up. Well, what are you going to do from here to get back? Because the idea is, like we said, remain enthusiastic. And I try to teach them that, like, look at, you know what to do, you know what your values are, and if you don't do that, you suffer. If you don't do what you know you should do, you just suffer. It's like there's this story of Mike Tyson, and he was interviewed, and the interviewer said, I'm talking to you, and you seem almost kind of like a shy, mild-mannered guy. But in the ring, it's a different picture. You're like, what they call him, Iron Mike, is like a tank. He's going to run over whoever comes in front of him. And he said something that shocked me. I didn't expect it. He goes, I hate that person that I become in the ring. He doesn't, that's his profession, and he doesn't like the person he becomes. So when I heard that, I thought, wow, that's such a powerful statement. Are you ever the person that you hate to be? And if I'm convinced of Krishna consciousness and I don't do it, I have to live with myself the rest of my life. I have to live with this person I hate because I committed to it. Isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't run away from yourself.
Yeah.
So, but within that, let's say you want to be a brahmachari, you want to be a book distributor 10 years from now, you're like, I can't do it. It's like, no problem. Just don't beat yourself up and don't lose your enthusiasm. Just realize, okay, that was great that you did it for 10 years. That's amazing. Most people don't last more than a few. So now, what is it? Who am I? What do I need to hold on to in my Krishna consciousness so that I can remain enthusiastic, even though I can't do that? It's not think, oh, I can't live with myself because I stopped distributing books, after 10 years. No, you want to be a teacher. You want to develop some community, whatever it is. Do it. Go for it. It's not a problem. It's just we're going through another phase. Find your next stage and be enthusiastic. Don't, if you do the things that make you feel like I can't live in my skin, sometimes it's just self-imposed because it wasn't that bad what you did. But if it's giving up Krishna consciousness, then you have to live with it. And you have to wake up every day being miserable. So, it's like there's a saying, the pain of the austerity is less than the pain of not doing the austerity, because when you don't do it, you suffer the whole day. When you do the austerity, you just suffer for a half hour, an hour, a few hours, right?
So it's constant nirvrtti-marga.
Yeah.
Even if you hit a point where you can't maintain your brahmacharya, it's not like, oh, I failed, I'm done. I'm gonna go and
It's only a failure if you think it is. You know, I mean, maybe if you say I'm committed from lifetime to be brahmachari, but most leaders would say just commit for 5 years, don't commit for a lifetime, and then we'll check in 5 years, or commit 1 year or 2 years. In Bhaktivedanta Mandir in London, if you're living in the brahmachari ashram, you have like signed up for a certain period of time. Like they don't want people staying there too long because they've seen it doesn't work. But if you're special and you say, okay, I did my 2 years, and they'll say, go, and you say, I want to stay. And so they'll talk to you and see if that's the best thing for you. And if it is, they'll say, okay. And they might at some point, they might say, yeah, we're lifelong brahmachari. So they'll work with you. So they actually discourage lifelong brahmachari at that temple for Westerners. In India, it's different. It's in Bhaktivedanta Mandir. India is different. Indian men have an easier time renounced. I think maybe it's just they're surrounded by so much renunciation. Their thinking is, well, you know, that's the best thing. If you want to be Krishna conscious and engaged full time, well, the best thing would just be single. You know, so it requires some intelligence. But they also have the samskars, because sometimes your mind says, yeah, that's the best thing, but your body says I can't do it. So you got the schizophrenia. I think that's more for us as Westerners, we've got other samskars. Not all Westerners, but compared to Indians, they have the mind and the body seem to sync more. With us, it's like, understand this is what I want to do. My body's like, I don't think you can do that. You're gonna keep this as your goal, but adjust to what you can actually, sustain. So my instruction to my disciples is do what's sustainable. So when you're younger, being brahmachari is sustainable for a while. But after that point, if it's not, then adjust, but do what's sustainable.
I often see examples of couples who live completely in service. You know, where there's brahmacharis who've been brahmacharis for decades, and then they marry in such a way that serves for a lifetime of service.
That's ideal. That's ideal. But even if the wife doesn't want to do that, or have the same level of service or renunciation that you do, you can still also do it. Or you should be careful, not alienate your family. But you know, one time Prabhupada said, just do some service, whatever it is. Because the service is for our benefit, not for Krishna's benefit, per se. It seems like it's for his benefit. He can spread Krishna consciousness without us. You know, you don't distribute those books, someone else will. You're not indispensable. So we have, but if like book distribution is what really helps you in your Krishna consciousness, keep doing it. And if at some point it's like, I'm getting older and I have other ideas for service, that's fine. That's okay. But don't give up enthusiasm. You always want to grab onto something which keeps you enthused. I heard this really interesting thing. This one teacher, it wasn't a devotee, but it was just beautiful. He said, if you're lazy, it doesn't mean necessarily, or mostly, it doesn't mean you're a lazy person. It means you've got nothing that's inspiring.
That's better.
It's like, Prabhu, do you want to do this? Prabhu, you want to do that? Yeah. So it's not that you're lazy, it's just
Inspiration.
Yeah, it's like, think of what people do and how much austerity they do and how much energy they put into the things that they're enthused about. I have a recording studio here, and I once saw this ad for some recording, and it was speeding up a guy in the studio, and it was just showing cups of coffee. Just meaning he's been working 24 hours in the studio. And, it's like, that's what you do when you're inspired. You keep going.
That's true.
So That's what's most important. Do what's inspiring. And Prabhupada said, if you do what's inspiring, your sadhana will just follow naturally because they go together. Find your place. And brahmachari life is very good training. It's really, really important. Really fortunate to have that training because so many people come to Krishna consciousness already married and they don't get that opportunity. So the training, you learn so many things that if you just came married, you wouldn't learn. And you get time to study Shastra, which is a big advantage. And then like if like we just read this purport, I'm like, oh yeah, I read that in 1974. That's probably when I read it, that purport. So it's like, yeah, when I was brahmachari, yeah. Because we would read every day for 2 hours. And on our day off, we would read for 5 or 6. So if you read every day 2 hours, and one day, yeah, on our day off, we would just go to the beach. What was LA? We go to the beach and we just read all day. We sleep and read. We sleep as much as we could because we were tired, and read as much as we could. That was the program. And so just calculate it. 6 days a week, 12 hours, and one day, 6 hours, 5 hours. So, we're close to 18 hours a week. So you can get through a lot of books at 18 hours a week. It's like a Bhagavatam, half of a full Bhagavatam. So, when you're married and working and like that, it's, or like when you're older devotee, you also get more responsibilities. And sometimes I can't even, sometimes I have so much to do. It's like crazy. Like I shouldn't have so much. And if I just don't study at a certain time in the morning, it's like, I don't have the time because I answer all my WhatsApp. And an hour later, there's 10 more. Thought I'd have the whole day. So as brahmachari, you have that advantage. So let's take advantage of that, and you can do full-time service and learn so much. And it's a great training. And you get to go to the temple, the whole program every day. So it's beautiful. However long it lasts, it lasts. If it lasts longer, good. If it doesn't last that long, but you've got so much benefit. And then from there, you go forward. And anyone who's lived in the ashram, you can see if someone has lived in the ashram, it's just like we all know the same verses. It's like if anyone is like, not that you have to know lots of verses, but just if you've been a brahmachari, that's what you do. You learn verses. At least 40 Shastri verses, 50 verses or something. But in Prabhupada's time, we all learned hundreds of verses. And there were certain verses, like we say, and this famous verse. What's a famous verse? It's like all the brahmacharis know it, so it's famous. That's why it's famous.
Recording in progress.
Famous purport. Why is it famous? Because we all read it. We all know it. It's like got a lot of hits. It's memorable. So like anyone that I know who's been a brahmachari long enough, or even a few years, if we're discussing something, it was like, what's that verse? They'll just, what's that? Ah, Brahma, Bhuvana, Loka. Sometimes you forget. We all know those verses. Whereas with like grihastas, people joining outside, even some basic verses they don't know. But we don't know that verse.
Right.
And it's like they'll know some Gita, but you get in Bhagavatam, they won't know that many. Maybe second chapter, first canto, some verses. But as you go in, and then Chaitanya Charitamrita the last.
What's your recommendation for memorizing Sanskrit verses? By song or by repetition or by
Whatever works for you.
know,
Repetition works for me.
Competition or
Repetition. Well, I mean, what you could do, I don't know if you do this, but if you don't, you could just have a verse for the week or a group of verses for the week. And it's just like, that's a verse for the week. Have you learned it? Or maybe you guys can learn it in a day or two.
Yeah.
That's good. And have a verse, so if you want to learn a number of verses, when you learn the second one, you have to still recite it. And so you're all learning it, and you can all, You know, when we were young devotees, you know what we did? I don't know if you ever did this.
Little
We
presentation.
had index cards and a little ring, and we had it on our bead bag. And those are the verses I want to learn.
Oh, in the ring.
Yeah, so you know, wherever we go, you know,
We
in the
should do
van
that.
going on Sankirtan, we look at our
Mm.
verses. It's just looking. But if we're all trying to learn the same verses, then we're like, okay, let's chant the verse. And then you know, so you keep hearing it, it's bouncing off everybody.
Right.
So that would be a very easy way to do it. You know, you all get cards and
Let's do that.
this is the verse for today or the verse for how many you think you can learn the verse for the week. If you review it, if you did one verse a week, that'd be easy because you review it by 7 days, it'd be hard to forget. When you're old as I am, you can forget. I quote a lot of verses, the first, second line, or the third, and fourth line, because I don't always remember all of them. I have to go over them. That's how I remember. Like if I'm reading a purport and I've learned the verse, then when I see it, it's just like, I'm not reading it like I would read a normal verse that I don't know. So it's like you get it in there, even if you forget, you don't forget. It's like they did this experiment. They'll show you banana, apple, this, that, and you'll say, and they'll say, can you name those 10 things? And you're like, I can name 4 of them or 6 of them, or 8 of them. Some people are like, I can only name 3. And then they'll say, no, you remembered all of them. You say, no, I don't. And then you'll show pictures of 20 things and tell me which are the 10 that you saw, and you'll I saw this, so you actually remember them.
Mm.
So when you learn a verse, even if you forget it, you actually remember it because someone quotes it in class. You're like, oh yeah, they're kind of can't remember the line, and you're like, oh, this is it because they said the first, it clicked your memory the second. So yeah, I would see, you know, for many men, I would say brahmacharya is like it's like a school. It's an advantage, and then you see, you know, afterwards what you want to do, how long you want to do it, how you want to do it. It's a great opportunity. And then, if you're ever going to go in grihastha life, the fatal mistake is not to be ready for it, because in the ideal brahmacharya ashram, you should be taught about grihastha life, which seems weird because we teach you about brahmacharya life. But so we teach about brahmacharya life, so you can learn to be brahmacharya. But when you want to be grihastha, you're completely unprepared, and you're supposed to learn about life as a brahmacharya. So one thing, it's interesting, going to you could consider this, but when you teach about grihastha life to the brahmacharis, then it confirms whether or not they want to be grihasthas. This is what women are like, this is what you have to do, and I don't think I can do that. Or you'll think like, yeah, that's what I need, that would be good, it's my nature. So teaching about it has that advantage that you'll hear and go, so because I could teach you about it, so if you want to get married, this is what you need to understand about women. These are the possible scenarios. You're married, you know, when you're 25 and 50, it's completely different. This is what they need, etc., etc. And then now you know, because otherwise you get married, you don't know, and then you get shocked when it's like, oh my God, I didn't know it was like this, because you just saw them at Malarkey jumping up and down. But once they get married, it's like, got my nest, let's fill it up. It changes. Everything changes. Some of you have experience. It's like when a man and woman come together, woman is free, you know. So it's her opportunity, because this is Brahmacharini, what can she do? You're just living in an ashram. And even for you, what can you do? But now you can make money, you know, buy your Tesla, and set up your whatever you want to set up, your art studio, photographic studio. You can do all this stuff here. So it would be good to learn. And then if you ever decide to do it, you're prepared and you know what you're getting into. Because that's one of the biggest problems. You don't know what you're getting into. And you treat your wife like a brahmachari and you live like a brahmachari. And that's a formula for disaster. I've done it, many men have done it. In fact, one devotee wants to write a book about it because that's so common.
Very nice, actually.
I counsel men, and usually the problem is they're still brahmacharis and they're married. That's a very common problem.
Is that really an issue of leaving too soon? Jumping.
Yeah, yeah. You should, you know. You should be fully satiated as a brahmachari. You should leave in the middle. Then you'll get married. At some point, you'll be fully satiated married, and you'll want to be brahmachari. Okay, I did it. I've eaten these cookies for 40 years, I don't need to eat anymore. I don't want to eat anymore. That's what it does. It's like, when you're young, you like it, but when you're older, it's like, I want to live a healthier life, and I've had those cookies. And it's kind of like, I don't have the appetite I had when I was young, but that's the process of eating. You lose your appetite for that. So you've had it. And for some people, the only way they can be renounced is to have it. Right? It's just a fact. So that's the idea of grihastha. You want to be renounced, but you can't be. So you have to have it. And by having it, it satisfies that need. And so when you're 65, and you see these young, beautiful girls and young boys, you're like, well, I don't have to do that again. One of my godbrothers said, someone had just got married or just had a kid, and his kids are like 30 and grown up. And he said, when I see that, I'm like, so glad I don't have to do that again, because it's difficult. So glad that's not my baby, isn't it? And it's like, so that's, but maybe I could never come to that level if I didn't go through it. I wanted to take sannyas when I was 24. I don't think I would have made it. I needed that experience. It's like, okay, so now I've had it, So if I see a beautiful woman or a couple or whatever, it's like, I know what it is because I've had it. But you don't know what it is, it looks better. Yeah. Everything looks better until you have it, isn't it? Yeah. Get your new Tesla, but you'll find that it's not perfect. Right? I should have done it this way. So, but if it helps you in your Krishna consciousness, you get married. If it doesn't, there's no point. If we don't do anything, if it's not going to help us. If staying brahmachari helps, you do that. But you have to have an ashram or an ashram. So you don't want to be in between ashrams. Prabhupada called that bachelor daddy ashram.
Bachelor daddy
ashram.
Bachelor daddy
ashram where you get girls pregnant and you don't marry them. So you should never have a relationship with a woman, a close relationship, unless you're thinking about marriage. It's just present culture doesn't think that way, but culture thought that way for the last 10 zillion years. It's just they stopped thinking that way when the hippies, sexual revolution. So our philosophy is, you're gonna have a woman, you take care of her, you take responsibility. You can't do it. You have to pay for it. You can't just have it and not pay for it. This is what we want to do. Right? Have fun and just getting married is not fun. The wedding's fun, but but then you have to go to work and it's not always fun. And
so much upkeep.
Kids are difficult, especially when they're young. Yeah. Women, have emotional issues and they'll tell you things they don't like about you and get on your case. It's like all women do it. I don't know why. Well, maybe they didn't used to do it, but nowadays. I just saw this video. I saw this video of a woman telling women how to treat men. She said, you all treat men like you want them to be women and you get upset when they don't act like women. So, it's kind of a phenomenon.
Yeah, this is common. So
yeah, I don't know if it's always that way, but my mother was always in my father's place. I feel sorry for her.
Oh, you don't want to be like that.
I love my mother, but I'm like, yeah, treat him like that.
So make it on that.
And so, anyway, these are realities. But if you go through these things, then it's not like, oh, this girl's so beautiful, would be so happy. You realize, no, you'll be happy, but there's also other stuff that goes on that you have to deal with. And your expectations will be real, and so that you can deal with it. But it's also nice, really nice if a woman's been a brahmacharini, if she's done book distribution and preaching, because you have the same experience. Relate. So that's nice.
We were just on the Krishna House retreat, and one of the brahmacharinis gave a great example of scripture where I don't know if it's Narada meets one of the sages meets a wonderful woman, and there's this great ecstasy, not because of their attraction to each other's forms, but that there's this great love for one another because they know they'll make spiritual advancement together.
It's the whole point. You know, it's so interesting. It's so interesting. Because when men and women come together, they just start thinking about sense gratification. Where your whole training as a devotee is to think about service to Krishna. And it's like that part of your brain gets turned off when you're in the association of women and you just think about, oh, we're going to enjoy. No. You don't get married to enjoy, you get married to help one another advance. That's why you do it. Is there anything we do in Krishna consciousness that's not going to help us advance? No, we wouldn't do it, right? When we get married, all of a sudden, the brain goes, that box gets shut off and some new box opens up. I'm going to enjoy. That's the conditioning. So yeah, you do it to advance, no other reason. It's the only reason. Otherwise, if you're associated with a woman for any other reason, it's not going to be good. It's not going to work.
It always fascinated me because it's like, I don't know why you would want to get married because you have to, you can only have intercourse once a month.
Yeah, right.
Trying for a child. Once you have that child, okay, you don't want a child, you're finished. And then all this upkeep, emotional upkeep on the mental plane, on the physical plane, working hard all day. I don't understand.
Sounds like
I
more
actually don't
You've done it
understand it
before?
really.
You've done it before?
Yes, I was married before, but I don't really
You're
understand.
proving my point. When you've been through it, you realize. Well, there are many, many men, brahmacharis, full-time brahmacharis who were never married, who also said what you said. And there are men who were married who said what you said. And the men who said what you said that weren't married, most of them got married. And the men who were married went through it, less of them. But what happens is, let's say 5-10 years from now, you may still understand all this, but you find yourself like, oh, I'm every woman that comes to the temple is like, it's bothering
Bewildering you.
And you're like, I would really like to avoid this, but I don't know if I can. And that's the only way for me to purify myself. Or, I could go to India, try to be a brahmachari, and live in an ashram there with, 200 brahmacharis. But even if you do that, a lot of times when you do it, you think you're renounced because you're around renounced people. But when you get alone, 3 months later, and some beautiful girl walks in, it's like, you realize, no.
Is that kind of like how in Canto 5, in the chapter The Great Forest of Material Enjoyment, in one of the verses, it says, if you don't take out these weeds of desire for household affairs, then they'll grow back up once again.
Yeah, well, I would say that, but I would also say that there is premature renunciation or too much renunciation. So it's like the head and the heart thing. You've got this thing in your head, you probably got a lot of it in your heart, but maybe 5 years from now, you'll still have it in your head, but not in your heart.
Yeah.
So it's just a question of what medicine's going to work. So brahmachari is like, it's a potent medicine, but some people think it's too strong for them and it makes them sick. So let's say we give you the brahmachari medicine and you take it and it's working, but after a while it's making you sick. Okay, we have to do another formula. Same disease we want to cure, but we have to give you a different medicine. So Grihastha life is a different medicine than brahmachari pill. You may have to take the white pill.
At least keep your options open.
Yeah. I think one really important thing is to develop a very generous and respectful attitude towards women, because it's so easy for single men to try to be renounced when they're not, by hating the employee, hating women as their weapon for
Yeah,
renunciation.
getting power from that nature.
And so hating is, attraction and repulsion. And so you're just being controlled by the woman instead of lust, it's hate. Which is, it's the same thing. Was it Vishwamitra who fell down and then the next time he was tempted, he became angry?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so he lost his power when he fell down, and he lost his power, his
Also
mystic
angry,
power when he
yeah.
got angry. So it was just the same thing coming out, it's like a burp or a fart, It's just air coming out one end or the other. So,
I remember Srila Prabhupada wanted to give sannyas to one person. And then next day morning walk, he asked, so are you ready? He said, no, I'm not taking. I said, why? Because last night I had a talk with Sutta-kirti and he thinks I should not take it. But Prabhupada was not happy. He went to Sutta-kirti Prabhu. Probably you heard it many times. And he asked Sutta-kirti, who told you to tell him that not to take sannyas? I told him to take sannyas. And then so in their conversation, Sutta-kirti Prabhu said, but he has a lust. Prabhupada said, as long you have a body, lust will be there. But you have to cultivate, not to fall for it. It was very interesting. Then I look at the other side. In England, Subhak Swami, he's told us a story that there was a newcomer came and they brought him to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada says yes. And they said, oh, Prabhupada, he said he claims he has no feeling for opposite sex. Prabhupada said he should go to doctor immediately. This is not healthy. I was saying, what? So a healthy body means natural attraction for opposite sex is there. Otherwise it's sick, according to Prabhupada. Wow.
Srila Prabhupada, they were talking about sex. He said, Srila Prabhupada, I have no sex desire. Go see a doctor. That was the point I was making to Max. So everyone is individual. And so it's like sex desire is what binds us. So the game you have to play to get out in the material world is how you're going to deal with it. Right? And it's like crazy. It's just so difficult to deal with. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. These things are like defending, false ego. Why did you do that? How were you to tell me? It's like defense. It's like intense. Eating, we already know. How long can you go without eating before you beat somebody up? Eating, sleeping, when you're tired, if you don't sleep, it's not good. And what to speak of mating, it's just like, that's how Maya gets you. That's what was Prabhupada, one devotee told me, he said, Prabhupada said that Maya's job is so easy because she created sex desire. So it's like, I create sex desire, now I can go to sleep and everyone's,
Go mad.
So it's so beautiful because it's like, it's the barometer which tells you how you're advancing in Krishna consciousness. So your sex desire is like, oh, it's strong today. All right, something's wrong. Ate too much, slept too much, didn't read enough, whatever it is. So the thing that entangles us is also helping us because it shows us, it gives us, it's a guidepost. That this is what we have to detach from. So the whole thing is you have to become free from sex desire. We do it through Krishna consciousness. And so the goal is that you do it as a brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyas, but somehow you do it. So whatever is best for you, you do it. And if you don't need to do it, you can live without it. That's the first choice. But if you try to live without it, then you go get some girl pregnant. We don't obviously want that. So, Prabhupada told the brahmacharis, it's very simple. Just do without it. It's simple. And Prabhupada was speaking from experience. Because he was married, had 5 kids. He knows. But if you can't do it, it's not a problem. The goal is how will you control that sexual desire. So, if you're, if you want a woman, you have to do it in marriage. You can't do it in marriage. You've got to pay the price. And then devotees say, yeah, but I got to work. Take care of the kids is the thing. My wife spends so much money. You see that joke? The Indian guy is but like in Rishikesh and he's praying to the Ganga please solve my financial problems. And his wife is next to him, and all of a sudden she disappears. All
That's so
financial
funny.
problems solved.
Is it a cartoon?
They have these husband and wife YouTube videos. Then he did another one. Says, I keep your picture in my wall. And she said, why? Just so I know the reason I have no money, you know. So, but here's the thing, and this is important. When you're married, you have to deal with your own desires because they get stronger because you have facility, both for sexual and just for material. You know, you have a house, you can make money, you can make a lot of money. When you have a lot of money, you can, you know, get anything you want, basically. You have to deal with your wife's physical problems, emotional problems, spiritual problems. You have to deal with your kids, physical, emotional, spiritual. You have to educate them, keep them happy. It takes time. You have to have a job which you may not like, and deal with that. But the point of that is that you can't have that woman unless you have all of that. Because if you have the woman without that, you won't get purified of your sex desire. It'll just increase. Because you just have a woman have sex. I don't like you anymore. Get another one, have sex. No responsibility. I don't want to marry you. You're not going to purify your sexual desire unless you marry and go through all that austerity. So when you're going through all that austerity, you just realize, you know, I couldn't be a brahmachari, so I have to go through this. And this is just what I have to go through to get purified. And when you get to my age and you've been through it all, you're like, yeah, that wasn't easy, but I'm purified. Would you like to do it again? No, thanks. No thanks. So that was like when my daughter was born, I was thinking, when are you going to get married? You know, it's like, you know, it takes so much time in making. You have to make money, you know, like how much time? Well, he was smart because he was listening to Prabhupada's lectures. He got a business where he could listen to lectures. So that's good. But still, you know, you gotta raise kids, things cost money, your home, and blah, blah, you gotta work. Think about making money, investing the money, blah, blah, blah. That's how you get purified. Otherwise, it's just you have a girlfriend and you're not gonna get purified by that. And even if you live together, you just live, no principles. You got to go through all that struggle. That's how you get purified. So, you know, we may make fun that it's struggle and all that. It's just reality. But without it, if you have that desire, how will you get purified? Well, you can tolerate it. That's possible. You can chant more rounds and, you know, do more hearing and chanting. And then you may not need it. Fine. No one's going to force you to do it. But if you're, you know, you're on the verge of, you know, raping some girl, hey, you waited too long.
So it's strong sadhana doesn't fend off necessarily sexual desire.
Depends on the week, because you won't always have strong sadhana.
Mhm.
I remember I was in Sankirtan. I did Sankirtan for years. And I was doing a concert, and there were two girls. And one girl was like, that was the wrong girl for me. It was like, I thought of that girl for like 2 weeks. It was like 1 minute or 2 minutes giving a book, and I thought of her for weeks after.
Madhavendra Puri says if they're under 250 pounds, you don't talk to them. You don't talk to
How do
them.
you come up with that?
That's not me. That's another sadhu.
No mercy if you
Yeah, she had no mercy.
No mercy if you're 250. But I chanted my rounds that day. I was at Mangalarti, so the conditioning is very deep, and it's feedback, it's information for you to consider. Oh, you know, like, but the other thing is, it's the wrong woman for me because she's exactly how I would build, you know, my 3D model of the ideal woman. But I can just think, yeah, but I'm brahmachari, I don't want that. I can recognize that it's there. That's information. I need to be stronger, but I can also walk away from it. But that's not what I want. I don't want to get entangled with it. But information.
How do we alchemize? How do we take the intensity and
by your desire. Like if you're brahmachari, you're committed, let's say, you're committed for a period of time, then that doesn't fit. It's just not part of it. It doesn't matter if you're attracted, because it's like, I know I'm attracted, but I've committed. And because I've committed, it's out of bounds. I can't think about it, even if I want to. It's like if you commit to not eating sugar, then there's all kinds of sweets around. It's like they look good, but I can't eat them. I like to eat them, but I'm not going to. So that's how it works. That's what initiation is. You make a commitment. Now I'm not going to do it. That's why you take vows. Because a vow means you're telling yourself, I want to follow this in the future. And I want to vow to make sure that I do it. Because I can tell you, if I didn't vow to chant 16 rounds, I can tell you, there would have been hundreds of days I wouldn't have finished. There just have too much to do. And the rounds were just getting in the way. I this morning at 5:30 I had a meeting. Then at 8 o'clock I had a class, and then this and that. It's like, it's like the rounds are getting in the way here, So, but to make the vow has to be done. No matter what happens, it needs to be done. So if you make that vow brahmachari, at least during that period, it's like, whatever, she's beautiful, whatever, I got agitated, whatever. I don't go there because this is my vow. I'm a monk. I won't do that. And so it's not like you don't recognize the attraction, or you don't recognize that a woman's attractive. That's a very high level to not be attractive. Even Prabhupada recognized beautiful women because he was on a plane and he told his disciple, this woman is very beautiful. Not like he was attracted, it was just an observation. So it's not like you're not going to notice it. But yeah, I don't do that. Just like for me, I'm married. So it's almost like, in a sense, more of a lack of chastity if I'm hanging out with another woman, even more so than you, because you could get married to that woman. I can. It would be a scandal if I did. So even as married men, we have vows. So once I'm married to this woman, all other women are out of bounds. It's like, that's it. Doesn't matter if they like me or like, I've had women ask me to marry them, and I was already married. Hare Krishna.
Jesus.
More than one.
Like the Vedic marriage where you can have,
Or have a few.
One's enough. How could you afford?
Can I ask any question on the Zoom audience? We have 7 people. Anyone has any question from the Zoom?
Who's the Zoom audience?
Shubir, Patit Taran, Jagannath Prabhu, Krishna Manju, Dandakesh, Chandrasekhar, Vikram.
Wow.
Anyone has any question?
no question about
Is that Zoom? Are they going to go to the chat?
No, they usually speak through the microphone.
Okay.
If they don't say anything, they just are shy.
I guess they're all shocked. They don't know.
Shubir Prabhu.
They don't know what to say.
There we go. Got to put him on.
Shubir Prabhu, do you have any question?
Turn your microphone on.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Dandavat, all Vaishnav is here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for explaining. I got this. The one point is one of the things, the discussion that Prabhupada was thinking. How do you overcome this? Like if you see as a male, if you see a female, it is natural attraction, but you don't try to control the natural attraction. That will come automatically. But just only thing you need to transfer it, this love to Krishna. That's what I learned from this.
That's the whole point. And that love you have for anyone here is just love for Krishna being directed.
Yes.
To that person. And the only way to direct love to another person is first to have it for Krishna and then give his love to that person. That's the purpose.
Yes.
Good.
Wonderful.
Otherwise, it's just my love. If it's not my love, then it's my lust.
Yes.
And Prabhupada, he wanted us to protect women and protect our wives. So protecting your wives and lust are two different things.
Thank you.
Are you a real man? Well, real men control their lust.
Mm.
And
Yes.
I feel like if I can control my lust, I can control anything. You know, if I can conquer that, what else can I? You know, people say I made $1 billion, started these companies, and I think, yeah, but can you control your sex desire? You know,
Yeah.
so that's good. You're smart, and you know you have that karma, but I can't do that. I wouldn't, know how to do it. But my goal is to control myself, and I feel like, yeah, I can do that. That's real success. Conquer yourself, or you conquer
So
the
power
world.
is not power over others, power over our own sense.
Yes, exactly. Power over others is just false ego, arrogance.
The question was good.
Ravana.
Yeah.
And Ravana is a good example because how many wives did he have? Like 100, 1,000? You know, at least 100, right?
Oh, 1,000.
And that wasn't enough. 1,000 wives, and they're all beautiful, and that wasn't enough. He wasn't satisfied. You know, what did when Bali offered Vamana, well, take whatever you want. He said, I want 3 steps of land. That's all. And Vamana said, if you can't be satisfied with 3 steps, you can be satisfied with whatever you want. So you're not satisfied with 1 wife. Why would you be satisfied with 1,000?
Like the ghee into the fire.
No.
Thank you, Mahatma Prabhu. That was very nice session. You gave
My pleasure.
out of your
Thank you for
kindness,
coming.
gave us association. Mahatma Prabhu ki jai, Srila
Jai,
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai, Swami Vrindavan ki jai.
Jai.
Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you.
Patitanam pavane
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Prabhat ki jai.
You're going to teach
Hare
them.
Krishna.
We were asking.